Welcome to 40 Fit Radio, where we bring you science-based, common sense information regarding fitness, health, and lifestyle for the 40-plus community. I'm your host, Darren Deaton, doctor of physical therapy with 28 years clinical practice experience, starting strength coach, and certified CrossFit trainer. Forty Fit Radio, real people, real fitness, real health. And welcome to the 40 Fit Radio podcast. I'm your host, Coach D, and today we have Willie Villareal.
How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Good.
So Willie and I are long-term friends. He's going to tell you a little bit about what he does. And so we'll just roll right into that, Willie. We're going to talk about hormones today.
Absolutely.
And metabolic health.
Yes, sir.
And what masters should be looking for. So tell us a little bit about you and then core sports recovery.
All right. Well, my name is Willie Villareal. I'm a family nurse practitioner in the process of finishing my doctorate in nursing practice. I'll actually be starting my keystone, my thesis on May 7th, specifically on the next 18 months studying a ketogenic diet, believe it or not, for performance.
Oh, awesome.
So basically here I own a sports recovery clinic, sports performance clinic, and I specialize in hormone therapy. We have everything here as far as the physical modalities of recovery. What I was seeing is everybody wants to train, but nobody does anything specifically for recovery.
It's the elephant in the room.
Yeah. What do you do for recovery? I roll. Yeah. Well, okay, when you stretch. Okay, what else? So basically, this all stems back from training with CrossFit Invictus, and I met Josh Bridges, and Josh told me, we really hit it off, and Josh told me something that stuck with me for a long time. And he said, if you don't do more, or at least as much or more recovery than you're doing training, you're gonna break down. If your house doesn't look like a science experiment, he goes, you're doing it wrong. He goes, and it doesn't have to be at an elite level. That's just at a maintenance level.
Sure.
So I've always been an outside of the box thinker as far as medicine, as far as sports. So I'm always looking for the next thing to really propel my athletes, to help them perform better, recover better. So I have everything here from whole body cryotherapy to PEMF, the pulse electromagnetic field tables, to infrared, to just a lot of modalities, right? Normatec, vitamin drips, and like I said, I specialize in hormone therapy. So I have a blood lab here. So I like to look at all the biomarkers. Biomarkers are super important because if you don't know where you're going, you don't know
Sure.
where you've been, you don't know where you're going.
Now tell me, where are we located at? We're live right now in what town?
In Conroe, Texas, just north of the Woodlands, north of Houston.
I knew where that was.
Yeah,
I just wanted to
gotcha.
say it. So, okay, cool. So we're in Conroe in Texas, but you have the ability to work with people outside of this market.
Absolutely, yeah. So we have athletes and patients in almost every state. I mean, we see patients even in Hawaii. I take care of patients in other states as well. Okay. And athletes also, mainly looking at their metabolic biomarkers and kind of helping them with that.
Sure. So before we get into the specifics of metabolic health, hormonal health, and what masters should look for while they're training, or if they're just getting started training, a lot of folks, they're not even exercising yet.
No.
And they see all these low T centers and
Yes.
and all these doctors specializing in anti-aging. But I'm going to have you talk a little bit more about that in just a second. But tell us about you, because what our listeners aren't looking at right now is a guy. Willie, how old are you?
44.
He's 44 years old. I used to compete. Actually, I'm in the age group above Willie, but I could have never competed with him as a CrossFit Masters. But tell us a bit about you as an athlete, growing up. Maybe start wherever you want to start.
Gotcha.
Just start there.
Well, so my background has always been in sports. My whole family was very, very athletic. I played college football, and ever since then, I never really had anything that stoked the competitive drive until I ran into CrossFit probably about 8 years ago. So about 8 years ago, I I was introduced to CrossFit, and it just fueled my competitive fire. So it just took off from there. But one thing I noticed really, really quick at our advanced age, that if you don't do everything right, nutrition-wise, recovery-wise, see a
ready
soft
for the
tissue
pain
specialist.
storm.
Yes. And that's kind of, where I was very, very blessed and, to run into you and to kind of, work together with you. But
yeah, that's how we met.
Yes.
You were making a run to the games right
2015.
after you turned,
I think
40.
41. Yeah. 40,
Yeah.
41. Mm-hmm.
And so tell us, what was your highest ranking? I think after
That
the
year-
regionals, you were.
So that year, I was number 3 in the world after the Open.
That's what I thought.
And
yeah.
I basically, felt fine. I felt great. I trained
Yeah.
very, very hard. And that was the year that you actually did all my programming.
Right.
Recovery, everything. And thing about it is, as soon as that ranking hit, everybody says, "Hey, you're going to the games." I got my plane tickets.
on.
Yeah, they go, "I got plane tickets. I got the room. We got our tickets." And I said, "Oh my God." A lot of pressure, right? I had a lot of people, counting on me. So instead of just sailing and
doing what
I
was
doing, status quo with what I'd been doing, I pushed a little bit harder, tweaked my back, went into regionals a little bit less than 100% and dropped from 3rd to 23rd. Well, as you know, they take top 20 to the games.
Right.
So narrowly missed. Ever since then, life's taken over. We've been busy opening this clinic and things like that, but still training. Still doing the Open every year. Next year, planning on making another run at the 45 to 49.
Sweet.
So because I bump up
Yeah.
to the older guy, I'll be the young guy, right? The baby, and the next group.
I'll work out with the old guys. I'll beat those guys. But the problem is, all the guys that are your age are becoming old.
Yeah.
So they're all going to be. But no, I mean, what you guys can't see, what the listeners can't see right now, is that Willie is crazy fit, low body fat, high muscle mass. An unbelievable mover, great athlete, great CrossFitter, great lifter. I mean, I think the other day I was noticing on your Facebook page, you squatted, it was either a single or double front squat.
Front squats.
How much?
445.
445. What do you weigh?
185.
185, 445. How tall are you?
5'7", 5'8".
Okay, that's what I thought. So strong dude for any age, strong dude. So what the nice thing about working with Willie as a practitioner, as a provider, is that you're not only getting the background of a great clinical mind, a great science mind, and the experience of working with athletes and also masters too, specific to masters too in some ways. But you're also getting a guy that knows what it's like to be athletic. So I think that's always good. You put the rubber where the road is.
And so that's kind of what led into the clinic. Is it, going into medicine, I always wanted to help people. We all want to help people, right? But when we get into medicine, we all see we're helping very, very few people.
Right.
We have 5, 10, 15 minutes to spend with patients and write a script and throw it at them.
Right.
And
there's no lifestyle change.
There's no lifestyle change, and nobody addresses nutrition. Like they don't know. They're not taught in medical school, and unless they take a personal interest, they're not going to learn about nutrition. For an athlete, for even the average metabolically compromised patient, right? So the problem is that what I learned was what worked very, very well to have my athletes performing at a high level translates very, very well to just
normal population.
People that just want to feel better.
Absolutely.
And that's nutrition is one of the 4 pillars of health that I have.
Sure. No, that's awesome. Yeah. No, very good. And we're going to talk in a future episode, but we're going to devote an entire podcast to something I know you're very passionate about, and that's the ketogenic diet.
Ketogenic diet, and yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so we'll talk a ton about that. So let's talk a little bit about, and this is an open format, Willie, so you can just kind of run with this, but let's talk about metabolic health, hormones, master's aged clients, and what they should do to, first of all, let's just say the assessment phase. What should I do? I'm a guy, I'm 45, I'm 50 years old, or I'm a woman, and I want to assess where am I at. How do I go about getting started?
Well, first you have to look at the signs and symptoms, right? The symptoms are what we feel. Right, that's what we feel as far as, hey, I have low energy, I have fatigue, subjective, And then we also have to look at the symptoms. Hey, I'm not as strong as I used to be. The signs, yes, exactly. And so the first step with anything is having your biomarkers checked. Okay, is actually doing blood work, but then that becomes very complicated because then you need to go to somebody that actually specializes in those hormones.
That's the heart.
Okay.
So where do you find that?
And that's the thing is, so they're very few and far between. So here's the problem. Here's the good and the bad. The problem is that hormones are so popular right now, anti-aging, the buzzword, all is that so many people are jumping into it, and very few people truly understand it. They're actually just adding it to their practice or to their med spa or as another revenue source rather than actually being very, very passionate and knowledgeable about it. So here I'm constantly getting patients coming from other clinics or other offices saying, he said I was normal. He said I was this. And it's a true, they don't have a true understanding. So first step is obviously blood work, but finding somebody that knows and understands hormones properly.
Should an individual look for certain credentials or look for certain?
No.
Not
really, because
I know a lot of family practitioners do HRT. A lot of I've seen that sometimes in the obstetrics industry, gynecology and obstetrics.
But here's the problem with OB-GYN.
They do both of it too.
Yeah, they do. But the problem is, very few men are going to go into an OB-GYN office.
Right.
Just like very few women are going to go into a urology office.
Right.
So it's even though they stamp themselves with hormone specialists, just be very, very careful. And the first part is just understanding. The first part is getting over the stigma or something I call hormonophobia.
Right.
People have this, everybody thinks they know a little bit about testosterone, about hormones.
I'm getting jacked up.
Yes.
I'm a steroid user.
Yes. And it's very, very important first, and this is a very important point to understand what hormones are and what steroids are and aren't. Hormones are simply a chemical that's produced in one part of the body that affects other parts of the body. That's all a hormone is. So testosterone, estradiol, progesterone. I had a guy the other day that said, he had low T. He had low T by blood work, by biomarkers. But he says, when we discuss treatment, he says, well, yeah, but I don't want to use anabolic steroids. Or is testosterone anabolic steroids? Yes. What's a steroid, though?
Right.
People need to understand steroid has a negative stigma, negative taint when they don't understand what it is.
Sure.
A steroid is necessary for every function in our body.
Metabolic process.
Metabolic process, testosterone. People don't realize that cortisol, that's a steroid.
Right.
It's important for our immune response and stress response. People are very shocked to know that cholesterol.
Right.
Cholesterol is a steroid.
Right.
But guess what? We need cholesterol to produce testosterone.
Right.
So there needs to be an education and understanding of what a steroid is. So going back to that guy, he basically said, no. So does that mean I'm going to be doing anabolic steroids? No. Yes and no. You're understanding. He was just adamant, I do not want to use steroids. And so, okay. But he was totally fine with using Clomid.
Right.
So it was, and because it wasn't a steroid, so I induced him to make more testosterone. So, like I said, we'll get into the specifics of all that, another time. But basically, people need to understand what hormones are, and hormones are. They need to understand that there's a very, very big difference between PEDs and what we call juicing and bro science.
Right.
And proper hormone regulation and deficiency.
Sure.
The people that are proponents against, even primary cares and stuff, that they'll say, oh, his testosterone is fine, are the same people that or their testosterone is normal, are the same people that wouldn't think twice about giving somebody a thyroid prescription if their thyroid was deficient.
Or a narcotic. Right. Or an opiate.
Yeah.
Which affects their neurological system and everything.
Exactly.
Else.
So my goal here actually is my take on medicine is a lot different. I think we need to start judging good medicine on how many patients we take off of meds.
Absolutely.
Instead of how many we put on. And it's very, very easy to put patients on meds. They come in, they say, I have depression. Here's an SSRI. Here's an antidepressant. The problem with that is, guess what? It causes low libido. It causes all these other problems. Instead of understanding, hey, why don't we try to do it nutritionally first? Why don't we try to do it this, So, there's a lot of different ways that we can address it.
That is one of the things I love about you. I know we met first as through the CrossFit, industry, through the CrossFit Athletic Forum. But then we use you clinically too as practitioners, and we've seen that in what you do. I know the difference between, like, when we talk about metabolic health or hormonal health, you see the low T centers in some of the facilities, and we're not here to say poorly about one or another, but one of the things I do notice is there's very little detail in regards to the data that's given to the client base. In other words, if you have almost everyone has low T, they say, and almost everyone gets testosterone. But you and I know historically that it may not be that their low T is due to the fact that they have low
It's multifactorial.
Exactly. It's multivariate.
It's
And
multivariate.
That's one of the things I love about you is that you look at the entire blood panel and look at everything on there and then say, oh, this is why your testosterone that you presently have in your bloodstream is not being utilized.
And it has to be just like we talked about multimodal. Be very, very leery of, like you just talked about, people on the interweb, right? Or the internet. Yeah.
We call it the
interweb.
Old guys call it the interweb.
Yeah. So be very leery of somebody that just comes out and says, it is this. It is just that. No. It's more complicated than that. It's multifactorial, right? So, when we're talking about hormones, we're talking about nutrition. We're talking about strength, training. We're talking about,
So let's go down that road. So we know that individuals that are over probably the age of 35 or 40, well, we know at 30 that hormonal levels begin to drop.
Yes. Yeah.
And we know that eventually sarcopenia kicks in, the loss of muscle mass. And
so we actually,
sarcopenia,
sarcopenia, we need to actually start worrying more about dynopenia, right? Everybody talks about sarcopenia, right? Sarcopenia is the loss of muscle tissue, right? We actually lose dynopenia, or the loss of strength and power, much quicker and sooner than we lose
the actual muscle mass.
It takes a lot longer. So we need to address dynopenia first, and a lot of times, again, with hormones, we can do that. But the thing about it is that we do at 30, you start losing 1 to 3% a year.
Sure. Sure.
And again, it's replacing hormones that are deficient, not these crazy high levels that people are doing out in, the public.
So let's say you have a master's aged male or female. They come to you for a consultation, and let's say their diet's terrible. Yep. They're not exercising, they're not training, they're not exercising, they're not using resistive exercise, strength exercise, they're not sleeping good. All these factors are involved. So let's talk about how you would approach that client base first, and then what's primary and what's secondary and tertiary.
So like I said, there's multiple levels. I mean, the basic is blood work. We start with blood work, and then we'll have to do a sit down consultation to see what all the factors are affecting them. There's a lot of different things, but I mentioned earlier, we have 4 pillars of health, right? And we have to have all of them to be functioning at a high level. So one of them, I start with nutrition. Okay, you have to have good nutrition. Okay,
Absolutely.
Have to.
I mean, that drives hormones.
It drives hormones. It drives everything. Exercise and activity, pillar number 2. Right.
Sure.
Number 3 is hormones. You can be eating right. You can be training, but if your hormones are off, you're spinning your wheels. Sure. And then the third that very few people talk about is mental. Yeah. Mental is very, very important. And what I mean by mental, there has to be some form of mindfulness, some form of gratitude, some form of 5 minutes a day of doing an app or a guided meditation or something
mental
like
health.
That. Mental health. Everybody forgets about mental health. Yeah. Because it's kind of woo-woo. It's kind of nobody, but it has a lot to do with a lot of things, especially in elite athletes.
Sure. There's a great book that was recently written by Dr. Jonathan Sullivan and Andy Baker called Barbell Prescription. And it's basically resistive training, strength training for individuals over the age of 40. And one of the things he talks about in there is, is physical health, mental health, emotional and spiritual health. And he states in a paragraph in there that emotional and spiritual health are actually more important than all the others.
Yeah.
I mean, very, very important. And we tend to not focus on that because it's difficult to ascertain, it's difficult to measure, and then it's difficult to treat.
And it's difficult to do.
Exactly.
For a lot of people.
And we have a very busy lifestyle. Go. But so you're addressing that master's individual in more than just having them come in, check their hormones. Their hormones are low, and you're just going to give them hormones.
Yeah, and it's also a process of elimination.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
I mean, we have to do this. Okay, that has worked. This hasn't. Hey, I feel better, but let's move on. Let's because again, anybody that just says it's this. It's not. It's very, very it's multifactorial. So
sure. What are the major hormones that you look at in the body and check normal levels or check the levels?
Primarily testosterone, free testosterone. We'll check estradiol. We'll check. We'll do a CBC, a complete metabolic panel.
Right.
I'm very, very big about vitamin D. vitamin D
because it's a hormone.
is a
Acts as a
hormone.
hormone.
So yeah, it's a misnomer. It's a misnomer. Like people think, oh, it's a vitamin.
Yeah.
No. It's acts like a hormone in the body.
Right.
And it does a lot. And it's not one of these.
Yeah, you harp on me always.
Yeah. It's not one of these. Yeah.
You're
vitamin
anemic.
D.
Well, I have beta thalassemia, so.
Yeah. Well, but the thing about it is that there's so many. It's not one of these vitamins or hormones that is just the hot new supplement.
Sure.
There are multiple studies showing, the benefits of it, even from an anti-cancer, from bone density, from there's just a ton, and it goes into just like with the testosterone and a few other things. I mean, the testosterone itself has so many benefits for men and women. Here's the deal. Every day, for all these proponents against hormones or against, and here, the good thing is the negative signals it's starting to shift. The paradigm has started actually to shift, which is why we're seeing the low T centers and all this. But the thing about it is every day we fight aging in bad teeth, bad eyes, bad hearing, heart.
And we treat
bad
that.
Blood, and we treat it without even thinking.
Skin, integumentary system, sure.
But so why should testosterone or hormones or anything be any different?
Right.
By that logic, we should just go, hey, don't give that 80-year-old his prescription glasses because, it's a normal part of aging.
Right.
No, it doesn't. No,
he can't read or see stop signs anymore. That's normal.
Exactly. No, it's not. We have the technology. If the risks, if the benefits outweigh the risks,
sure,
why not? And now we're starting to see, with just tons and tons of data and studies, the safety and efficacy of hormone replacement.
Well, and I think you put it right. The stigma there has been that steroids, open quotation, close quotations, has really been associated with, performance enhancing drugs.
Well, it's what Barry Bonds used to cheat on baseball.
And it's you're talking about a totally different
Those
usage.
are designer steroids. Those were designer, done at very, very high levels, whereas the average individual that has low T, if you just put them, people don't understand that if you just do a good foundational dose of hormones, testosterone, to get them into the 900 to 1200 range, which is where I want patients.
Okay. So normal. So what would you consider a 40 to 50-year-old male? Where would you like to see
9 to 1100?
9 to 1100
and
for male.
Female anywhere from 80 to 120 or 1 to 200.
Okay.
And so here's the deal with males. And that's just not an arbitrary number. That is all based on studies.
Sure.
There's a big study in the journal Clinical Endocrinology, showing all the thresholds, all the cutoffs for certain disease states at levels of testosterone. We know that it isn't even until you cross the threshold of 450, that you get protection against type 2 diabetes, against metabolic syndrome at like 600. It isn't until you cross the 840 threshold that you get protection against aggressive prostate cancer, something that has always been told that, hey, it's a risk factor. Hey, don't do testosterone, it's going to cause prostate.
Right.
That's absolutely false.
Right.
Absolutely false. And so if that's the case, we would see this massive explosion. If that was the case that testosterone caused prostate cancer, we would see this massive explosion over the last 10 to 15 years of prostate cancer. And we're not seeing that.
Right.
And we never have. We follow the work very closely of Dr. Abraham Morgentaler. He's a Harvard-trained, urologist. And he's written a very good book called Low Testosterone for Life. And so a lot of us follow that. But he started the Androgen Study Group.
We'll put that in the show notes, by the way, so people can find that.
Yeah, Androgen Study Group. And what he's done is he set out to provide the data to debunk a lot of these myths. He studied testosterone for over 40 years.
Wow.
So, and he's a great physician. But yeah, the protections against, so the 900 threshold, it isn't until you pass the 900 threshold that you get protections against neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, things like that. So low T is a risk factor for a ton of things, from bone density in men and women to just a lot of things, not counting the signs and symptoms that we see all the time, the low libido and the first signs,
Sure. So what about the proponents who say, okay, you and I know, we've already addressed it a little bit, but you and I know that lifestyle in and of itself can drastically affect the testosterone levels of both males and females, and estrogen levels too.
Yeah.
And so what about the proponents that will basically say this: why don't you just do it all with lifestyle and not supplement
Exactly.
with hormones, or is there see, I see that as a balance.
No, it has to be both, because here's the deal. You read on the blogs about, hey, if you do macadamia nuts or Brazil nuts,
Right.
or if you do this, or vitamin D, boron, zinc, magnesium, right, you can raise your testosterone. Yeah. Like 50, 100 points.
Right.
Maybe 200.
What about the guy that's at 230 or
yes,
240?
Thank you. And so like I was telling you, you'll have an average guy that comes in to somebody that doesn't understand hormones, and he'll be at 315 or 350 and be told by his primary care, hey, you're normal. Well,
Right.
no, you're not. No, you're not. So, but you can raise, there's a lot of different ways that you hear about, like strength training, things like that,
Right.
that you raise it, but you're talking about 100 points. You're not going to put somebody into the 9 to 1100.
If someone is clinically
clinically low T,
clinical low T,
yes, or hypogonadal, yeah.
then they need to be
Exactly.
they need to be looked at for
And
treatment.
and again, there's a lot of different
Females
reasons.
too.
Females too, yeah. And there's a lot of different reasons. It's not just low T. They may not be having any kind of production from their
Right.
pituitary. There's
Right.
a lot of different, like I said, it's multifactorial.
And that's one of the things I like about your practice. And my wife is actually here in the studio with us. The studio is the break room at Core Sports Recovery right now, but she's not going to say anything. But that's one of the things that when we looked at using you with her care too, was just ensuring that I wanted someone that was very, very detailed at looking at the biomarkers, looking at the bloods, the blood work, and you do exactly just that. So for a woman, what's the value of having her hormones checked? And I mean, when we think about testosterone, we think about hormones, we think about males,
Yeah, exactly.
generally speaking.
Yeah.
And now we know there's more and more women that are doing either the pellet or they're doing
Yes.
some type of injectable.
There
or
are
creams
women-friendly
or whatever.
injectables. Yeah, there are
Okay.
women-friendly injectables and pellets. They all work great. But again, even with the pellets, you have to go to somebody that knows how to dose it properly or knows how to adjust them. You'll hear people say, "Well, I tried the pellets; they didn't work." Well, yeah, who
Yeah,
did you go
exactly.
to? Or what did you use, or was it compounded at a local pharmacy? So there's a lot of factors again with that. But as far as women. God, and I'm going to mention my wife. I always mention my wife,
sure.
and I hope she doesn't get mad.
Well, good.
But-
See, that way I won't get in trouble.
yeah, yeah. So I always mention my wife. She always
All
said,
right, she's mentioning their wife. So,
I'm safe. No,
Yeah.
so basically my wife is one that she tells patients all the time. She says, hey, I didn't think I had a problem before. I was
Right.
fine.
Right.
Now I'll never not do it again.
Right.
And the thing about it is preventative.
Sure.
Okay. Nobody does anything in medicine. Very few. Preventative. We're all in medicine, mostly firefighters. We're putting out fires.
Right.
We wait till somebody gets hypertension or diabetes or obesity, and then they come see you. They have a problem, right? Well, the preventative factor is huge, for bone density.
Yeah.
It builds 8.3 to 10% of bone a year versus biphosphonates.
Very important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again, they want to hit you with Boniva or like a biphosphonate, and it does nothing to increase bone density. Testosterone does.
Right.
The fatigue, the energy, the heart health, there are tons of benefits. The mental clarity that they talk about. So there's a lot of
Libido.
Well,
There we go.
and that's the main thing. Yeah, that's the main thing. So I have many women that come in and say, hey, I love my husband. I'm attracted to him. I just don't want to.
Sure.
And then it becomes a big issue in
The relationship.
in the relationship, because it's like, well, are they having an affair?
Sure.
Do they not love me anymore? Am I not attractive?
Sure.
So then it becomes very, very an emotional and affects the
And
relationship.
we go back to what we talked about before: emotional health and mental cognitive health.
Yes.
And those things are just as important. If not, I think as I've aged, and I'll be 51 this month, so I know I'm.
And it still looks stout.
Sexy,
Still looks
man.
stout.
All right. So, but I've noticed that as I've gotten older, that my mental state, my sense of wellness, my sense of ability, and I would say as a man too, my sense of usefulness,
Yes.
the ability to do. I'm not 20. I say it's the Toby Keith syndrome. I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was.
Yeah, as I ever was. Yeah.
And so if you're from Texas or I guess down in the South, you know what that means. But I mean, my goal is to be useful and to be functional and to be able to do the things that I want to do in life. So I combine good mental health, good nutritional, physical health,
The goal,
and the ability to do.
And so here's the deal with medicine: we can make you live till 90, 100 years old now,
not good.
but who the heck wants to be bedridden at 90?
Exactly.
You know, it's about, my goal here is to make you a vibrant, active 80, 90-year-old. The more fit, the more lean muscle mass, the fitter I can make you at, 40, 50.
Absolutely.
The less decrepit you're going to be as you get older.
And now we know that the higher level your muscle mass is into your aging years, the more likely you're going to have a better quality of life and better longevity.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
I mean, and just the testosterone itself, just the hormones itself, have been shown study after study after study to increase muscle mass, decrease body fat, things like that. It's a catalyst. It's a tool. It's not by any means a magic pill, just like anything.
So we've already talked about exercise some, or training some, resistive training, strength training. We've talked about diet some, that obviously, and we're going to have a whole other podcast, and which actually, if you're listening to this now, you've probably already heard our podcast on nutrition. And so those are important things. Then we talk about, sleep and rest. And
There's
recovery.
a bunch of things that I do to hack sleep. So here's the deal. I'm a huge geek about biohacking, about neurohacking.
Yeah.
I wear my glasses. So one of the easy things I do, I wear these yellow glasses that block blue light, a few hours before I go to sleep. And then I wear some True Darks right before I go to sleep, and it starts shutting your brain down.
Sure.
That's a very, very simple thing that most people don't do. And it really, really knocks you out. It helps with sleep.
So Michelle has some yellow glasses that she wears driving at night. So there's actually something to that. Maybe.
Yes, there is. No, and I wear them at home, and like my kids walk up to me, "You're so weird. Like you're so weird. I can't even look at you right now." But
Dad's from another planet.
Yeah. But I'm like, hey, I'm out in 5 minutes when I put those glasses on. So yeah, there's a lot of little things. There's so, like I said, there's so many things that are out there. Find what works for you. I mean, there's something called Brain Tap that we use. It's like a light therapy and a guided meditation. It'll literally put you from beta wave, beta brainwave into either alpha, delta, or, theta. It'll put you into immediately, and you can check it on EEG.
Yeah, and the key here is, we go back to what you talked about before, is just basically looking at the foundation.
Yes.
If we have a good foundational program, like we're talking about in the foundations of 40Fit, then from there, then if we have a problem area here or there, we need to tweak something here or there, then we can do that. Yeah. But let's face it, it's like building a house without building a foundation. We want to build a foundation, and that would be the things we've talked about before: diet, nutrition, rest, sleep, mental health, physical health.
I honestly think of hormones as we age, we have, every single chronic disease that we have can be directly linked back to declining hormones as we age. I mean, so to me, hormonal health is paramount as we age. So, I mean, I really, really, dial in on hormones. We get that right. Okay, well, let's move on. Let's do other things. But
what about for some individuals, they're thinking about risk. What would you say are the legitimate risk, not the things that I mean, I think it's really interesting, even within Western medicine, that there are a lot of times that, I'll get physicians that'll have patients come in with bad knees, and they'll tell them don't squat anymore. And I'm telling them, well, you're going to lose your function. Yeah. You're going to lose your ability to stand from a toilet, to get out of a car, to walk upstairs. So that's not a realistic recommendation for someone to live life.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's inaccurate information and inaccurate advice. So what would you say are the real risk with hormonal replacement or therapies?
Honestly, the risks, the benefits far outweigh the risks. I think the risks, just like I mentioned earlier, there's something that we call hormonophobia. Okay, it's an irrational fear of something that's not there. So, a lot of people have misinformation of what all the risks are, So one of the big ones is cardiovascular risk. They hear about, oh my God, heart. That's actually very, very false. Right. It all stems back from a big study in like 2013. It was like the Vignette study and all. It has since been by like Dr. Abraham Morgentaler. There's an awesome video he has debunking it. And what it is it was actually very, very, there's hundreds of institutions across the world actually that have asked JAMA to take that, basically that study out. And they said, not because we disagree with it, but because the data in it is so flawed, skewed, that you can't even believe it. That data had accidentally 10% women in it. Right. Okay, so, it was a male study, and they only looked at a diagnosis of basically testosterone, And then they looked at a diagnosis afterwards of hypertension or MI.
Right,
That's all they did. 90 days later. Well, guess what?
And it's very multifactorial.
It's very
too.
it's very multifactorial. They only looked at one. Well, so the data in it is so flawed. Well, guess what? Everybody, you saw a few years ago all the commercials. Class action lawsuit.
Yeah.
Hey, have you had
Sure.
testosterone? Have you had well, guess what? We don't see them anymore. Why? Because it had no merit.
It was debunked.
It was debunked. It had no merit.
I kind of think of it this way. I'll have patients all the time say, well, I got a little bit of joint pain here and there, and they're active, they're strength training, they're exercising, they've got a good diet, and they're older. They're in their 60s and 70s. And so, they'll my recommendation to them would be, you're doing everything you need to do. If you thought about taking an NSAID, a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, be careful with the dosage on those. But if it allows you to be mobile, to work out, to be active in your community, to be able to be less sedentary, all those things are helping hormonal health, your ability to be functional and useful in your community, your mental health.
Yeah.
All those things are helping. So the benefits far outweigh
the risks. Yeah.
The risk. And I think that's important for people to recognize.
And I like to start actually with nutrition too. Like there's a lot of info about like turmeric or turmeric or however you want to pronounce it. Every pronounce is different. So there's that. I'm very, very big about using glutathione.
Sure.
I use an injectable glutathione with patients. I think most people over the age of 40 should be on it. It is very, very good for staving off like any kind of neurodegenerative issues.
Sure.
But it's the most potent antioxidant that you can get. And I've seen tons of inflammation drop with it. The ketogenic diet, which I've told you, I said, we'll talk more about that. But simply put, I believe, and what I've seen, every person over the age of 40 should basically adopt a ketogenic lifestyle. Why? Because as we age, we become less and less and less efficient at using glucose. Our cells get old, our mitochondria get old. And so there's a very complicated way that our body has to process glucose, insulin, TCA cycle, Krebs cycle. Our body never becomes less and less efficient at using ketones. Okay, ketones go directly into the cell. They skip a whole step in the Krebs cycle. So your brain lights up. Your brain loves it. Your brain actually runs 38% more efficient on ketones. So again, that's more cognitive health that we're shooting for as we age, and really want to look at like brain health. I'm very big about nootropics. There's a lot of work.
So as you guys can tell, Willie knows very little at all.
Yeah.
So when you talk to him, it kind of geeks me out. I'm back here trying to figure out what I'm going to say to him because obviously we can go really far down the rabbit hole of the science of it.
We'll try not to go down that rabbit hole right now.
But and we'll definitely talk more about the ketogenic diet and some of those things. But okay, so a client comes in. You've done some evaluation, medical history with them. You've done their blood markers. You've put them into treatment, or whatever that is. It could be not that they're on hormones. It could be you give them some other recommendation, more vitamin D, more exercise, changing your diet, changing your sleep habits, whatever. And then what's the next process after that? What should someone expect from a good practitioner in regards to that process of follow-ups and those types of
communication and information? Okay, just like we talked about, most people don't give them the information. They'll say, well, they called and told me my labs are fine. Well, what do they look like?
I've had several guys my age that are buddies, that are friends, and guys I live with, or friends that I went to college with or whatever, and they're looking at HRT, and one of them went to a low T center, and I said, so what were your levels? Yeah. And do you have a copy of your blood work? Oh, no, they didn't give me my blood work. Yeah. Well, they just said I had low T, and I go in once a week for an injection. I think it's $45 once a week or something. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Yeah. You need to know as a consumer, you need to educate yourself as
when you're more educated and you have the information, you're better suited to affect your own care, be your own scientist of your own body, right? So, and I'm here to dog on any low T center, but I do have an issue with them.
Sure.
I do have an issue with any low T center that has the patient come in once a week, because what I see is that here's the deal. Testosterone, hormone replacement is a long-term commitment. It is not realistic to tell a patient to come into a building once a week the rest of their life.
Right.
It's not.
Right.
Most of them are so busy that they skip that 1 week. And guess what? Now they're 10, 14 days past and they feel terrible. So that's actually worse care. They're peaking them, crashing them, and then for that week they feel worse.
Right.
So it's better to empower the patient to do self-administration at home. And now ours is actually much better. Like our for men, we do a sub-Q injection of testosterone. So it's much easier. So again, not to give too many details on that, but there's much better ways, and it's not realistic to go into a building once a week the rest of your life.
Well, and hopefully one of the things we'll be able to do through this process through 40Fit is through the blogging that we're going to be doing on 40fit.com too. My goal is to have content experts like you who we can get in some print and get in the written word some of this data so that our listeners and our community at large can have a resource to go to say, these are reasonable normal levels. These are the things I should look for.
And this is why.
Yes, and make it very systematic so that individuals can find access to good science, evidence-based information, and then the anecdotal evidence that people like you and I have from being in medical practice for 25, 30 plus years.
Yeah, and that's the thing is anecdotal doesn't mean wrong. It just means just hasn't been studied or tested yet. And I have the yes buts. The yes but people. It's like, well, show me the study. I show it to them. They're like, yes, but the sample was small. Show them the study. Yes, but you know what? You can yes but all you want. I'll continue to help 300, 400, 500 patients. It's just,
exactly.
They're the analysis, paralysis people.
Sure.
They're all paralyzed by analyzation.
Sure.
They're if we all wait till we have double blind control placebo studies, we'll all be dead.
Right. I think you made a good comment earlier, and I think this is true, where we can evaluate through science and medicine and through better technology, the risk and the benefits. Our number one goal is to always protect our patients in both my practice life and in our client base and in yours too. And then number two, where we see that there are limited risk but tremendous benefits, then we're stepping out into waters, but a lot of people have done that before us, and there's a lot of data and a lot of research to support that.
Yeah, but here's the deal. People say, that this is untested, unproven, or other things. But the thing is, the whole premise of first do no harm. Well, guess what? I think starting somebody with a nutritional supplement or a proper nutritional plan is much safer than pounding them right away with a antidepressant.
Absolutely.
Or a med or whatever, but they don't think twice about that.
The question is the mechanism to do no harm.
Yes.
Their perception many times in Western
this has been proven.
Physicians,
Metformin's been proven.
Yeah,
this has been proven.
Exactly.
But it also now is starting to show side effects or this or the other. So
I think we've got a paradigm in Western medicine today where we've got to start looking at really is the advice that we're giving patients really accurate advice and really best for their well-being long term. And we live in a world of pharmacopoeia. There's every type. I mean, look at the airwaves today.
Yeah.
Look at TV. And look at advertisements and radio. And I mean, it's everywhere. It's every other commercial, right? It just matters what type of program you're watching.
Yes. Yeah. Well, what you need. You just find out you just had a new disease that you didn't even know was a disease. Yeah.
Exactly. If you're watching a program that's more geared toward your age range, you'll find that those are targeted with certain pharmaceutical products. So
but like we talked about, there's explore. There's so many levels above what people understand is even out there. I mean, I just heard yesterday. Pretty soon we're going to have there's going to be a brain pacemaker that's going to be put out soon. The military is actually working on it for PTSD patients, and it's called the RAM project, the Restoring Active Memory Project. And what that is, it's for these guys that have had really bad TBI, traumatic brain injury, PTSD. But the future of it is like brain cognition, memory. Like I said, there's so many levels above what people understand is going on. Like from injectable. We talked about this earlier. Everybody drinks their brain chain amino acids, and they're this, that, the other, and people don't realize, hey, there's actually injectable brain chain amino acids. There's actually injectable glutamine, ornithine, things like that you inject with like a little sub-Q needle. That's actually much more efficacious and has more quality than what's out there. But like I said, there's levels, right? There's levels.
Yeah, and I think our listener base and the people that obviously you and I have been around the age of the individuals that are our age range. Let's say 40 to 60-year-old age range. We generally are around a different group of masters individuals.
Yeah.
Their expectation of quality of life, that's what 40 Fit's all about. It's about raising our expectation level off of evidence-based knowledge and anecdotal evidence in the community at large to bring information to ourselves, to each other, through content experts, through whatever we can find, through our own experience, and helping us live younger lives as we age.
Yeah.
More able, more functional, more doable, and feeling a better sense of wellness. So hormone health, man, we could probably spend days talking about this, but so let's kind of do a synopsis of this. Number one, a master's age individual should probably be if they're interested in wellness and health, and also physical, mental well-being, spiritual well-being, they should probably be looking at their blood markers through a qualified practitioner, physician, or family nurse practitioner, whoever is in that specialty field in their area. You are available. We'll talk about that in just a second. But that's one of the steps through the foundation's process is to look at, okay, where are my blood levels at? And how can I impact that?
Yep.
Okay, so one of the ways would be what are some of the ways again? Let's go over that.
So blood work.
Okay.
Right. Sometimes we do an intro DEXA scan. We have a DEXA scan. That's
look
the most
at lean
advanced.
mass,
Lean
at fat
mass, body fat. Yeah, especially if their goal is to lose body fat. It's the most advanced thing you can do, and you can't cheat a DEXA. Yeah, eating, nutrition.
Okay.
We have a nutritional intake form. What are you eating? Because everybody says, "Oh, I ate a clean diet." Oh yeah, let's go over that.
Yeah.
And they're like, "I'm eating oatmeal with fruit and orange juice for breakfast." I'm like, no,
that's a problem.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I can't lose weight.
Yeah.
I'm eating 6 meals a day. Are you hungry? No, I'm shoving food down my mouth.
Right.
Yeah. So evaluating that, right? Re-educating what proper nutrition is, right? Simply. Training, super, super, super important. Do something. Everybody says, I don't have time. Oh yeah, do far park.
Right.
Park as far away as you can from your, entry.
Sure.
And then at the end of the day,
it's a start.
Yeah, it's a start. Walk to your car, act like you've got something at your desk, and walk back. Add activity somewhere.
Yeah, and you and I know that we're both we probably aren't speaking as strongly about it in this podcast, but strength training.
Yeah.
Training.
Well, now even CDC recommends it 3 times a week. So yeah, like you said, the paradigm's shifting, but strength training, resistive training, super important for bone density, for overall health, for everything. So muscle mass, so there's a lot of, like I said, it's super, super multifactorial.
Right. We talked about sleep and recovery.
Sleep and recovery is super, super important. It's not the quantity. We've been told, it's 8 or 9 hours. It's the quality, okay? You can get 4 or 5 hours of quality REM sleep, and you could wake up refreshed.
Right.
So it's all about quality, but there's different ways that you can achieve that. But you have to, like we talked about, go to someone that works with athletes. One of the things I found works very well is sports chiropractor, or like a DPT like yourself.
Right, sure.
In the Dallas area, or
I do manipulation on patients.
Yeah, but you're multifactorial.
Right.
You address everything, but you understand everything, and that's the key. So it's going to be finding. They're few and far between. A lot of them have the hormone specialist stamp. Right. I would delve into how many athletes do they work with, what's their active population,
right?
And if they, how long they've been doing hormone therapy. So there's just, and what they have available at the clinic. Like, is it just simply,
Yeah, and I tell patients all the time, and my clients when we used to have our gyms, I would tell them, go in and interview them. Pay for their time.
Yeah.
Go in and pay for 30 minutes of their time, interview them, or just walk into the office, get a feel for the office, get a feel for the population that's walking in and out. Get a feel for the product that you're about to buy or the service that's about to be rendered to you. Be a good consumer. Be a smart consumer.
This is something very simple. If you walk in and your hormone specialist is 300 pounds, walk out.
That's a problem. No, I agree.
You
practice what you preach.
Practice what you preach. Not that they will not have a good knowledge base, but I would highly doubt that they would be able to get you to your goals.
Well, one of the prerequisites in our practice is with our DPTs that we hire for our facilities. I want someone that's active-minded. I want someone that's exercising. I don't care about their genetics. They may not look exactly perfect. They may have be a little rough around the edges or have a little body fat here and there, but I want them to be trying to live an active, healthy lifestyle so that we're projecting that to the patients. We're actually consuming that ourselves. So, all right. So, Willie, how can people find you on the interwebs or wherever you are?
On the interwebs. So we have a website. It's pretty generic, but it's got a lot of info about what our clinic does and how to get a hold of us. And it's coresportshealth.com.
Okay.
We also post a lot on Core Sports Recovery, under Core Sports Recovery on Instagram.
That's at Core Sports Recovery?
At Core Sports Recovery on Instagram. And we're also on Facebook under Core Sports Health or Core Sports Recovery.
Okay, great. Great. Well, Willie, it was great having you.
Yeah, thank you, man,
as
for
a
having
friend.
me. Thanks for coming down from Dallas. That was a drive.
Yeah, exactly. We drove down this morning. I'm peeling my eyelids open right now. But
you need some ketones.
I'll
send you home with some ketones.
I know. He's trying to convince me on the ketone diet. Maybe we'll use me as a self-experiment, and then we'll post it on the podcast.
Yeah.
And so, but man, it's been great being with you. And as Willie said, you can find him at those interweb locations.
Yes.
And thank you for listening to the 40 Fit Radio Podcast. This is your host, Coach D, and Willie Villareal.
Yes, sir.
And
thank you for having me.
You
Appreciate
bet.
it.
And we will see you on the next podcast.
Yes, sir. Thank you.